Welcome to part 9 of the Grammar of Graphics. Let's turn our attention now to the coordinate systems layer in ggplot2. Coordinate systems, or CORD for short, map the position of objects on a plot plane. There are many coordinate systems, including Cartesian, polar, map projections. However, we primarily stick with the Cartesian system when we do statistical analysis. The vast majority of graphs and statistics use the Cartesian system, so that is the default that's used. And I'm not going to take us into these other coordinate systems, but this does show the flexibility of ggplot2 that we can use different coordinate systems. The coordinate systems layer can be used to adjust the Cartesian system for the graph, and that's something that could be useful. So let's take a look at coordinate systems in ggplot2. So the coordinate system is the default. You typically don't have to worry about this, but you may want to do something occasionally like flip X and Y, and that's what I'm doing here with the line 180 coordinate flip. So here we have a bar plot that might look neater if we have the classification on the vertical axis. Let's now turn our attention to labels. Labels, or labs, layer textual elements onto a graph. So you probably can already anticipate this is something that's going to be useful for you to get the text on the graph, whether it's the text on the vertical horizontal axis, or a title, or the title for a legend. The labels layer is what's going to allow you to adjust those. You've already seen that there are some defaults, but you might not like those defaults and need to adjust them. So the label adjustments you can make are to Y and X labels, adding a title, adding a subtitle, or adding a caption. So here on lines 187 through 191, we're doing a few of these things. We're going to create a scatter plot, as you can tell from lines 185 and 186, but now we're going to add a labels layer, labs, and we're going to put words on the x-axis, y-axis, give it a title, give it a subtitle, and provide a caption. Here we go. Let me go ahead and zoom this out. Let's take a look. So here is a little plot that is a scatter plot. We have a nice description for our x-axis, nice description for our y-axis. We have a title, we have a subtitle which comes in useful, and down here in the lower right-hand corner, sample ggplot, scatter plot using labels, a little caption to this. So a number of nice elements that we might need that are easily done with the labs command. Let's talk about facets. Faceting is used to split data into subsets, and I've shown you some examples of this. Facets can be created based on one or two variables, and elements of facets can be modified. Let's go back to our script. Here I'm going to create a ggplot, but rather than using color for the type of vehicle, I'm going to facet on the type of vehicle, and I'm going to put this facet grid so that rows are the classification of the vehicle. Let's see what that looks like. So here you go. We have the classifications of the vehicles. You can see that over here on the right-hand side, and you can see that we have put this into multiple rows, all using this facet grid layer on 197. Now let's do the exact same thing again, but this time instead of facet grid, let's use the facet wrap facet layer. That's a lot nicer looking, isn't it? Notice that we have the x-axis labeled down here and all the way across on the bottom, and then the y-axis all the way across on the vertical column. Here's one more. This one, we're going to use facet grid again, but this time we're going to put the classification on rows, and we're going to add another variable, the model year of the vehicle, that we're going to put in columns. And here's what we get. So we have 1999, 2008, and then we have the types of cars. Hopefully you can see a lot of potential for plots in which you need to take into account a third or even fourth variable in addition to the two that are in your two dimensions of the plot by faceting. Finally, let's talk about themes. Themes specify the general look of a graph. Themes can control aspects such as color of objects and background. Legend arguments can be used in a theme to fine-tune a legend. And there are built-in themes, packaged themes, and users that can create themes, as you might anticipate. Folk who work in the R world have created themes that they've shared with others, so you can do web searches and get more themes to add to the tidyverse. Let's look at some of the ones that are built in. Here I'm going to use a theme called Classic. So I'm adding a layer, that's a theme layer, to this scatter plot. We're going to go back to using color for the classification of the vehicle. And this is what it looks like. You can see why it's called Classic. Very plain. Now let's use one that's a dark theme. The next one is called Minimal Theme, or Theme Minimal. Pretty similar looking to the Classic, except that we have the horizontal and vertical grid, whereas the Classic was just white space. Legend arguments can be added to a theme layer to fine-tune the legend. So here I'm adding a theme layer that has an argument that's going to be with the minimal theme, but it's telling us to put the legend at the top. And this is what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to go ahead now that I have introduced all of the layers that are in the grammar of graphics, and you're getting hopefully a really good sense of these. We're going to go ahead and stop this, and then what we're going to do is go and use a number of those layers that you might commonly use, and so to give you more examples of using the grammar of graphics with ggplot2 in the tidyverse.